Hey guys, we are at Etowah Mounds in Georgia, and I'm going to show you some solid evidence that the builders of these mounds were giants over 7 feet tall. This may sound absurd to some of you, but by the end of this video, I hope you'll agree with me that the mound builders were, in fact, giants. First, here's a sign inside the museum at Etowah Mounds. It reads, "When the Spanish came to Southeast, they found healthy people who were on average larger than Europeans. Spanish explorers often commented on the tall and robust chiefs they met. Their larger size may have been the result of privileged diet." Let's face it, this is official information from the state of Georgia placed at the Etowah Mounds Museum. The first line clearly says that the mound builders were larger than Europeans. But how large were they? If you look at books and eyewitness accounts from early European explorers, they mention the height as anywhere ranging from 7 to 14 feet. And they have repeatedly referred to mound builders as giants. This last line is thrown in there so that there won't be a public uproar. I have never heard of a privileged diet that can make human beings grow 7 to 14 feet tall. You can become fit or obese, but it is impossible to become a giant with privileged diet. Now, the average European at that time was 5'6", and let's assume the average mound builder was about 9 feet tall. This is how they would look together. I'm 5'6", and I'm standing next to a picture of a guy who was 9 feet tall. The big difference here is that this man is an isolated case in human beings, but there was an entire race of giant mound builders that Europeans encountered. Imagine how tiny Europeans would have felt while interacting with these giants. If Etowah Mounds were in fact built by giants, shouldn't archaeologists have unearthed at least a few gigantic skeletons somewhere in Georgia? Here's a newspaper clip that says a 14 feet giant skeleton was found not somewhere in Georgia, but exactly at Etowah Mounds. Etowah Mounds were called Tumlin Mounds before 1953. And this piece of news is not from a small local newspaper, but from New York Times, which was the equivalent of CNN at that time. But is it possible that this is just an erroneous piece of news published by mistake? No, if you look through older newspapers, there are not hundreds, but thousands of articles that talk about giant skeletons found in mounds all across the US. Now, if giant mound builders really lived in Etowah Mounds, this museum would display giant artifacts, right? Wouldn't the common items they used, like pots and pans, be larger than what regular people use? But we have a museum full of regular-sized artifacts. How is this possible? Here's a sign that explains it. It reads, "Artifacts from this display case or from surrounding local areas, but are not from Etowah Mounds." Here's another sign which says the same thing. How about other artifacts? This is not from Etowah Mounds, not this, and not this either. In a minute, I will show you a few strange items that were unearthed from Etowah Mounds. But before that, were these giants simply tall human beings? Did Europeans just see a race of tall mound builders and call them giants? If we look through old newspapers, the mystery deepens because many of these unearthed giant skeletons had double rows of teeth, or a pair of horns, or both. So, who are these giants? Are they Nephilim mentioned in the Bible, born as hybrids between gods and humans? One mysterious similarity around the world is that gigantic structures like the Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, Bhima Stove in India, and Stonehenge in England were all reportedly built by giants. And in the US, I've shown you Serpent Mound, Alligator Mound, and now Etowah Mounds. All these unusual structures are also reportedly built by Nephilims. Now, if these giants were in fact hybrids between humans and gods, is it possible that they had horns or double rows of teeth? Here are some replicas of items found in Etowah Mounds. How about this wooden artifact? It has horns that look like antlers, but also notice the unusually long teeth and open mouth. Do you know that people with double rows of teeth cannot fully close their mouths? Remember, this is one of the few items actually found in Etowah Mounds, and it has horns and double rows of teeth. Is this a mere coincidence, or is this proof that giant mound builders had these strange features? This is how most effigies excavated from Native American villages look like. Take a good look at the normal mouth, because these two effigies were excavated from Etowah Mounds. Again, it is impossible not to notice their open mouths. Why do both of them have open mouths with protruding teeth? Is it because of double rows of teeth? Look at their flattened skull as opposed to round human skulls, and what about the weird rectangular carvings and a huge horn-like protrusion? Believe it or not, no normal human-like effigies were excavated from Etowah Mounds. Finally, a big question remains unanswered. Where are all the giant skeletons and the original artifacts that were excavated at Etowah Mounds? Many writers talk about the Great Smithsonian Coverup, where the Smithsonian Institution has collected thousands of giant skeletons from all over the US. They argue that Smithsonian is covering up the history of giants because it is against the theory of evolution. Surprisingly, when I researched online, I found out that the Smithsonian Institution excavated this site vigorously and took all the original artifacts, including skeletons. At this point, I've presented all my findings, and it is time to reach a conclusion. So, what do you think? Do you think Etowah Mounds were built by giants and Smithsonian has a hold of these skeletons? If not, why put a sign saying that the mound builders were quote-unquote tall and robust, and why have a museum that does not house most artifacts excavated here? And what about this newspaper clip that clearly says a 14 feet giant skeleton was unearthed from Etowah Mounds? Please do let me know your opinion. Thank you for watching, and talk to you soon.